a question about American history education.
Sure.
I was talking to a friend of mine about how, because I'm a young person, like all of you guys, and I don't know how you guys felt, but when I was in high school, we really didn't have a really robust 21st century education, because I graduated high school in 2016, and I just, either they weren't interested or they were too afraid to talk about it. I'm not exactly sure how that works. I'm not super educated in education policy or how that works, but my question is, I don't really know how you teach a non-critical or a perspective on American history in the 21st century, particularly like early 21st century, without severely damaging sort of the image of America that a lot of young people have. Because I think there's like an easy way to view slavery through the Civil War as sort of a way, a lot of like conservatives talk about this, right? Like that we achieved the founder's dream. But I don't know how you talk about how the White House just deceived millions of Americans into going into a foreign country to kill foreigners.
You mean in reference to the Iraq War?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the teachers are probably a little bit touchy to even like remark on the Iraq War at this point, but
I mean, teachers are made to feel uncomfortable talking about slavery,
right? So that's the thing, is it's just like, imagine how difficult it is to develop a lesson plan in this climate about our imperialist war in Iraq that happened really recently with a president that's still alive. I wish that were the case. I mean, I would say that the reason that I'm even in this field is because, like, when I was 12 years old, I just realized that I'm really angry all the time about the Iraq War. And so that was fundamental for me. But I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of things that are lacking in our history education.
I just don't know how you teach it to kids without just demoralizing them to a severe point.
Yeah.
Again, I don't want to like pick on teachers in any sense, but I would say our history education is just bad in this country. Like a lot of our types of education is bad in this country. But I think history is one of the specific ones that comes up a lot, along with like reading, when people want to read like social studies books, like The House on Mango Street or something, and therefore it's going to make everyone woke. But, I think just the way we learn history kind of like is to your point, which is that, how do you teach history as like a series of contiguous events that like caused one another or like happened in conversation with one another is not something that we really teach people. In this country, we teach history as a series of discrete events that are only related to one another in the most proximate ways. And so when you talk about something like 9/11, people don't want to talk about what caused 9/11 going back to 1883 or even the founding of this country. People want to talk about what caused 9/11 2 months ago, but just recent enough or like that nothing could have been done to stop it or prevent it in any way, but to give it the illusion that you're adding some kind of like deep historical nuance to it. So, there is always the sort of like the cherry picking of like individual facts within like a, fact pattern that people can engage in. But I think even just more generally as like a society and as like, our critical media, we look at history as a series of only loosely connected events in the sense that they're connected in time, not by the actions of any individual like states or people or whatever. It's very easy to just absolve, history is a thing that happened, et cetera, and not like something that is happening and is influencing our present and is like part of our context for our present. It's just no one really wants to talk about those things. So it's just,
also, I don't know
what you said, test too.
Also, I don't know what your guys' experience was in school, but it's very possible that a lot of kids aren't even being taught that part of history, because when I went to school, we basically got up to World War II, and that was as far as we went. Yep. I barely learned any further than World War II in school. Yeah. We certainly didn't talk about like Vietnam or Korea or anything like that. History basically ended at World War II in class lesson plans, and then the rest, I guess, was just either very abbreviated, like speed run, or just you're on your own, kids.
Oh, God, yeah. I know. We spent way too much time on the damn Revolutionary War.
Oh,
we
yeah.
should be learning so much more about the Civil Rights Movement.
Yeah. I would recommend people check out our talk on Left Reckoning with Harvey K. about his book on the British Marxist historians. He has he has a story in there where he's going out with the Marxist historian E.P. Thompson, and they're at some sort of like castle thing in England, and the tour guide's like, hey, would you like me to tell you about the Lord's exploits on horseback? And the Marxist historian Thompson is like, no, but you can tell me how he exploited the peasants and what they could have done to resist it. And it's like that really encapsulates like how history is taught. Yes. This is how it should be viewed.
Yeah, I think a lot of lessons too of like the progressive era have been purposely forgotten, and that's why you see people's history education become very murky after World War II. Because ultimately the lessons of FDR's presidency should not be forgotten, not just in the sense that hey, these things work, but they need to be expanded to cover more of the population. But instead, I think we allowed a large portion of the right-wing section of our country to, instead of admitting that progressive ideas work, pretend that they built the suburban homes they live in themselves. And that's basically where we're at now, like 40, 50, 60 years of like people who had houses given to them by like, FDR, pretending like their grandpa built that house, and then the house, and then like their father built that house, and they're all just living in like third generation suburbs now. And it becomes hard to have a conversation about like how we got to this point.
I appreciate the call, by the way, Vaughn.
Yeah, no problem. You guys have a good one.
Yeah, you too.